You know the specific thing I'm talking about? You've confessed it. You've cried over it. You've deleted the app, changed the routine, told a friend, and somewhere in that process, you genuinely believed, this time it's different, and then it wasn't. And now you're sitting with something that might actually be worse than the sin itself. You're sitting with the question. The quiet, terrifying question you won't say out loud. What if I can't change? What if this is just who I am? Not, I need to try harder. You're past that. You've tried harder more times than you can count. This is something darker. This is the suspicion that maybe the grace everyone talks about has a limit, and you found it. That's what we need to talk about today. Let's start with the fear nobody names. You don't just hate the sin. You hate what it's doing to your image of yourself, because somewhere underneath the guilt, there's a specific kind of grief. The grief of watching yourself do the thing you genuinely do not want to do. Like you're standing outside your own body, screaming at yourself to stop and nothing happens. Paul had a word for this. He called it the war of two natures. But the way he described it wasn't theological language, it was raw confession. He wrote about doing the exact thing he hated, choosing what he didn't choose, being pulled by something inside him that he wanted dead but couldn't kill. And here's what strikes me. Paul wasn't writing that as a warning about backsliders. He was writing it as his own testimony. So if you've been walking around feeling uniquely broken, like everyone else got the upgrade that lets them resist, and you got left behind, I need you to sit with this for a moment. The man who planted churches across the ancient world, who wrote letters that billions of people have read for 2,000 years, described himself the same way you describe yourself at 2 a.m. That's not an accident. That's a pattern. And that pattern means something. Here's what I believe is actually happening. There's a difference between a wound and a weakness. A wound is something that gets worse when you leave it alone. It needs to be cleaned, dressed, tended to, not ignored, not hidden under long sleeves so nobody asks questions. A weakness is just a place where you need to build strength. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're in training. The church has often treated habitual sin like a moral failure, a verdict on your character, proof that your conversion wasn't real, evidence you need to try harder and mean it more. But what if habitual sin is actually more like a wound that keeps reopening because you've never let it fully heal? Because here's what I've noticed about wounds. When they're infected, they hurt in waves. You think you're fine and then suddenly you're not. You go 3 good days and then something touches the exact right place and you're on the floor again. And the worst thing you can do with an infected wound is feel so much shame about having it that you refuse to let anyone near. Its sin grows in secrecy, every single time. Now I need to say something that might make you uncomfortable. The very thing you're doing right now, the self-punishment, the replaying of the failure, the cold distance you've put between yourself and God because you're too embarrassed to pray. That's not repentance. It feels like repentance. It has the texture of humility. You're not defending yourself. You're not making excuses. You're just sitting in it, feeling every inch of how terrible you are. But there's a word for when someone refuses to accept a gift that's already been given to them and insists on paying for something that's already been purchased. That word is unbelief, and I say that gently because I've done it too. The isolation, the quiet withdrawal from God, because some part of you believes you need to clean yourself up before you can come back. As if the cross works for everyone, except the version of you that keeps falling in the same spot. Here's the thing about darkness. You cannot argue it out of a room. You can reason about it, analyze it, create 12-step plans to reduce it. But the moment you stop thinking about it and simply turn on a light, it's gone. Shame is the darkness that keeps you away from the only thing that can actually heal you. And the longer you stay away, the more the wound festers, the more the pull intensifies, and the more inevitable the next fall becomes. The cycle is not about your willpower. The cycle is about your isolation. So let me give you a different framework. Stop asking, how do I stop? Start asking, what am I actually hungry for? Every habitual sin is trying to meet a real need through a broken method. Something in you is searching for relief, for intimacy, for significance, for escape, and it found something that temporarily delivers it, even though the cost is devastating. You are not a monster. You are a person with a legitimate hunger being fed poison. And the reason willpower alone never fixes it is because willpower addresses the behavior without touching the hunger. You white-knuckle through Tuesday, And by Thursday, the hunger is still there, louder now because you've been ignoring it. What if instead of fighting the sin, you started feeding the real need? What if every time the pull comes, instead of bracing for impact, you turn toward the one thing that actually satisfies, not as a technique, not as a trick to make the urge go away, but as a genuine act of trust that the real thing is better than the counterfeit? This is not a productivity hack for holiness. This is the logic of grace. You don't overcome temptation by hating it more. You overcome it by loving something else more. And right now, you cannot love something you've been running from. So here's what I want you to do. Not eventually, tonight. The next time the moment comes, and it will come, is don't perform strength you don't have. Don't pretend the pull isn't real. Don't start bargaining with yourself. Do the one thing the enemy never expects, be honest. Say out loud, even if only to God and yourself, I want this thing. And I don't want to want it, and I'm choosing right now to bring both of those things to you instead of hiding in either one. That's not weakness. That's the bravest prayer a person can pray. Holiness is not the absence of desire. Holiness is the slow, faithful, often painful process of letting your desires be reordered by something truer. It is not a destination you arrive at. It is a direction you keep choosing. You are not failing because you keep fighting. You are fighting because you are not finished. More thing before I let you go. A person who has truly walked away doesn't wrestle like this. They've made peace with the thing. They've built a comfortable life beside it and stopped asking hard questions. The fact that this is still painful to you, that you still feel the dissonance, that you still hate the gap between who you want to be and who you showed up as today. That friction is not evidence that you're beyond reach. That friction is the reach. You are not a finished story written in stone. You are a person in the middle of a chapter, and the middle of chapters is always the hardest part, never the part that defines where the story goes. Get back up. Not because you feel ready, not because you've earned it, but because the Father has never once looked at a person reaching up from the ground and told them to wait until they were cleaner. He meets people in the dirt. He always has. If this landed somewhere real in you, leave a comment right now with just these words, I haven't given up. Not for the algorithm, not for likes, because the enemy wants you to believe you are alone in this room. Prove him wrong. Say it publicly, even anonymously, even with a lump in your throat. A person who's truly gone doesn't fight this hard. You just did. If you want more content that goes this deep, subscribe to Gospel Grotto. We don't do surface level here.